Hello and welcome to Xena Warrior Podcast Minisodes. My name is Vera and I'm joined as always by my two vocal co-hosts, Katie.
Hello.
And Livy.
Can't deny it.
We're back and we are so excited to finally bring to you guys one of our topics that I think we mentioned definitely doing like last year.
Yeah, at least a year ago.
Mm-hmm. But it's finally here and it is Motherland Fort Salem. Woohoo!
Woo!
Yay.
This is a show that we have loved since season 1, really. And now that it is over, we are free to talk about it.
We couldn't talk about it before.
We were embargoed from
We
discussing
had to
it.
wait till it was over.
We procrastinated long enough on doing it post season 2 until season 3 was announced as being the final one.
Yes.
And we were like, oh, well, we'll wait till then. Great. An excuse to procrastinate some more.
Then we watched it quite slowly, and then finally we are ready to talk.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly.
You're right.
The podcasting race. But I do feel the first thing you have to talk about with the show is it's like in my mind, it is a COVID show. It premiered in like March or April 2020.
Oh, yeah.
So I associate it with the beginning of the pandemic.
And the end of the pandemic, because it's over.
Yeah.
Super over.
Over.
But I do think it's interesting from that perspective that like I feel like most of the stuff we're watching, I sort of have associations from the before times.
Yeah.
This is entirely something that I discovered in the midst of the pandemic, and the pandemic's been going on long enough that this show has now ended.
It's over.
It's had 3 whole seasons.
Yeah, I mean, it has...
Well, to be fair, that's short amount of time.
Yeah, but it definitely was a pandemic show in the sense that season 1, when they were doing all the press for it, like the Comic-Con, everything was like on Zoom that year.
Oh, right.
And I have these vivid memories of having like the video of Taylor Hickson and her mom drawer set from IKEA like behind her.
Very upset
mom.
with her
Mom, for
mom.
sure.
Not her mother.
No,
her mom.
Right.
Stars, they're just like us.
Right. So that means the full 2/3 of the show was filmed during COVID production times, not the first season.
And it seems like that really brought this cast together. Like, they're such good friends. They've kind of, had to pull together through, like, total... How could they have foreseen that this would be their process with this show? So.
I mean, I'm sure there are other, like, COVID, like, shows that started during that time period.
Anything newish,
But this one in particular had, like, the most, I feel like, difficult sort of life cycle.
In part because it was conceived before the pandemic, shot before. But everything since that first season has been deeply affected. And the first season itself, as you said, its press, its rollout was not what they had imagined.
But like everything was like that.
And
that
I
year.
remember being so worried about it, like in the first season, because I was like, how, who are we telling to watch this? We're afraid to talk to people. And here's this great new show. Can't recommend it.
That's where everybody would be Zooming each other. The watch parties and stuff started happening.
Yeah, but luckily it found its audience and its fandom. And I do feel like, yes, it would have been wonderful to have more seasons, and we'll get into it. How this specific amount of seasons maybe was not what they wanted. But it does feel like a bit of a miracle that we got as much as we did.
It's absolutely true.
Yeah. And that it was on Freeform.
Right. Which is, Freeform.
It's Disney!
Yeah, so does that mean you can watch this on Disney Plus?
Well, now that they're allowing all kinds of content, who knows?
Maybe. I think you get it on Hulu, which is also owned by Disney.
Disney.
Yeah.
So. And I was recently in Canada, and it's so wild how there is no Hulu anymore, or maybe never was Hulu there. So you just watch like everything on Disney Plus. So I was watching like that serial killer show, The Patient, on Disney Plus. And I was
you can make your own.
This is twisted.
Profile now.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah, and it'll allow that sweet rated R content. Like Deadpool, etc.
Somebody from Motherland was in Deadpool. but I don't remember who.
Oh, interesting.
It's a good fact.
So fascinating.
Damn. So you have to look it up
One
now
of the
because I
witches?
mentioned it. I don't know. Hold till we find out.
Oh boy.
Is it Taylor Hickson? That would be my guess. So yeah, it's Taylor Hickson.
What?
Good guess. You guessed it from the
Who plays
first.
Raelle. She was in Deadpool.
Woohoo.
As a character called Megan Orlovsky.
Okay.
Okay.
I've certainly
Okay.
seen Deadpool anyway, but that's a good way to
Yes.
go back to the
Yes,
topic.
The
exactly.
topic at hand.
Exactly. Well, I tried. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
somebody from this show is
Well
in there.
done. Well
Segue.
done. Okay, so
Yeah.
yes.
What is
What
it?
is
Motherland,
this show?
Fort Salem.
Why are we talking about it? Why are people listening to this going to be
Yes.
interested?
Yeah, if you don't already know, you better, after this podcast, go and put it on your either Disney Plus or your
I don't think it's on
Hulu.
Disney Plus yet. I could be
Well,
wrong.
if you're in Canada, it is.
Oh, sure.
Motherland, Fort Salem is an amazing alternate reality young adult world where...
Sort of alternate history.
Yeah, it's an
slash
alternate
I love
history.
an
sort of
alternate history.
military fantasy.
Yeah, so it's what if witches joined the U.S. military
Basically.
and fight the wars for you? And that's the show. So it's like very much alternative history though, because certain
Is it?
well in the
No.
in the mind of well yes you're right.
Witches are real. With the book magic and stuff. Okay.
We don't know for sure if witches are in our military, so therefore it
I
is
mean,
alternate history.
They could be.
They could be, you're right. But this comes from the mind of a very genius man, Elliot Lawrence, who...
I'm glad you say that. I do think he's a genius.
He is a
man.
genius because this is very, very, very world built.
Yes.
I think we probably all assumed when we first started watching the show that it was pre-existing IP.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that was,
it
I was
just-
like, this
Where
must
are
be
the
a
books?
Feels this
yeah,
way.
where are the books? Where's the graphic novel? You know this comes from somewhere because it's so rich.
But-
Like,
Yeah, it has such specific rules and it's so like alive.
Conceived
and
of it as a book series.
He did, yes.
Yeah.
And I think that helped with why he can answer all these things that are like way beyond what you actually see on screen sometimes. But it helps you kind of fill in the pieces. And then
Yeah.
it also makes you go, oh, I want to see that.
I often like to imagine the show Bible for Motherland, which, like, if you don't know, like, showrunners will often, especially for a show with a lot of world building, will kind of write a book with all the stuff that they want their their other writers in the writers' room and their department heads and their actors, like the stuff they want them to know about the world they're in. And I feel like Motherland is a show where you really are like, wow, yeah, I want to read that book. I want to know everything about the session. I want to know everything about Adil's people. I want to know everything about like how many seeds are there, and who controls them, and who makes them, and how do you discover a new one, and
Very elaborate.
It's incredibly elaborate, and also like only good shows have Bibles. If your show does not have a Bible, watch out. It's just a little weird. It's good, like not having.
It's good to see evidence that people know their world, and know their characters, and kind of understand the like logic behind it all.
Oh my God, where do we even begin?
Well, number one, the world building of this magical alternate reality United States / slightly more expanded later world is very, very cool. Lots of cool facts when you start watching it.
Yeah.
And then number two, best thing about show is that it being a show about witches in the witch military is that it is like only women and non-binary characters. There's some dudes. There's like one guy
seasons,
who's like a boyfriend who's nice. There's a couple other ones, and they're like they're there sometimes, and you're like, oh, okay, you're nice. Then there's like a baddie who's like a dude.
Eventually.
Yeah.
But it's all women, all based on this like, matrilineal, matriarchal universe. And the casting is fantastic. And the show centers on really a main trio. And the 3 actresses who play the main trio, what are all their names? Taylor Hickson, who plays Rael, we mentioned. Jessica, what's her last name?
Sutton.
Thank you. Sutton, who plays Tally, and Ashley Nicole Williams.
Correct.
Who is Abigail. They're all so great. They have fantastic chemistry together, and you're kind of like following them. And then everybody else is also super great, and we'll talk about them as well, especially the one very Xena-like lady that I think everybody is
obsessed with.
Yes.
Here will also enjoy.
But it's the kind of show where you have so many sort of side faves. Like,
yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I love the main 3, but yeah, like, I'm obsessed with, like, almost everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And what I was going to say, too, with the world building of the first season, they're kind of your entryway into the world in the first season is kind of like, we're going to school. And then the next season is like, more intense school army, and then it gets, oh no, we got to do real stuff, crap, kind of thing that you see with other stuff like Hunger Games or
sort of that journey from childhood to adulthood.
And it's really, really fun, for the most part, all the time. And so that's like kind of like the entryway into the show. You're following these 3 girls as they go to witch army school war college eventually.
Yeah, so it's basically like the beginning of the show is at a certain point, girls hit a birthday where they're gonna get conscripted, if you're a witch, that is, and you can, choose to do it, or you could dodge, which is bad.
Draft dodger.
Yeah. But basically, once you decide to be, to join, you're kind of owned by the military, which is part of the conflict of some characters think that is bad, and some are like, no, this is like so patriotic and awesome. And in season 1, like we're going to, as Katie said, we're going to school to to do kind of like the basic boot camp type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then if you're awesome at that, you go to war college, which is season 2. And then after that, like, you're just, like, in the military. And that's, like, one of my favorite tropes, of course, is, like, military stuff where first you do the boot camp and you're, like, a little novice and you're, like, ha, 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 all idealistic and stuff. And then it's, like, you get disillusioned. Yes.
That's one of the great things about this show is it's not like, because we're sitting here talking about, and they go to witch military. Like, it's very morally complex.
Yes.
And the whole show is kind of that, and the ethics of things, and it very much is about that. And I think like the showrunners are very, the showrunner is very smart, as we said, and so it's very keenly aware of that, and it's not just like rah rah.
No, but I mean, it's interesting that in the pilot, like, Tally even though she knows she's gonna join, like, doesn't have a ticket to fly to Fort Salem from California, and some guy's like, oh my God, you can take my seat. Everyone's like so respectful of the witches. And then like by season 2, there's like all these protests.
Death to
like,
witches.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
and then there are other witches who are not into the military.
Yes.
Right.
Existing at all, who are scary. And then it gets a little confusing, but it's cool. I got it now. I figured.
But like, how can you not be into the military when it's run by General Sarah Alder?
Yes. The aforementioned Xena woman.
Xena woman.
Like, you wouldn't follow her into battle, of course. She is an ancient witch lady. But she's very hot. She looks like Xena, basically.
She looks like a cross.
She
looks like a cross between Aaron Soon from Farscape and
the long braid.
Dark braid, like intense, like face features sharp.
Yeah.
And Xena as well.
Yeah.
10 years ago, Xena.
She's cool.
Definitely a bit of 10 years ago Xena in there.
And she's very, very,
she's
very cool.
just, oh my God.
But I mean, you guys are, losing your shit over General Alder, which is fine.
The correct opinion, yes.
The correct opinion, but I love that the show, from the beginning, like, presents her as a figure that you're not sure about. Like, again, she is the general of this witch military that basically owns these young women, and you kind of worship her because she's amazing, and then you're like, oh no, am I the problem?
Yeah, she's very cool.
Yeah, but I mean, you experience these feelings through Tally,
Yes.
who is our most idealistic of the
she really
unit.
goes through a journey because
Yes.
she enters the military with these ideals,
Yes.
Yeah.
with these ideas about Alder that are definitely questioned.
That's the thing with the main three, is they each have these sort of different reasons that are kind of they're kind of reasons you would expect to see, but they handle them really well. Like, you have the idealistic one who like signs up on purpose.
Yeah.
You have the one who's like from a history of
she's like a military aristocrat.
Military aristocrat.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for putting words.
Yeah.
I was like, she's fancy.
And Raelle, who's conscripted, and she's from the Session, which is this kind of autonomous entity within the U.S. That's a whole thing. And she joins up kind of, with mixed feelings because her mother died.
Yeah.
While doing her service.
And they're kind of like medic.
Yes.
Sort of. Their gifts are
fixers.
Yeah.
They heal other people's wounds by like taking on the damage of the wound.
So that's like
themselves.
her family sort of gift there.
Cool. Abigail is I forget their name, the weather workers.
Yeah.
I mean, her last name is Bellwether. She does. I mean, her family literally invented that work. I'm doing air quotes. Work is the term they use for spells.
Yeah.
I think that's how that kind of translates out. And then Tally kind of sees things.
And Tally's thing is that her mom, again, every woman in a family is a witch, right? So if your mom's a witch, you were born a witch, and if you're a girl, you're born a witch, and then so on. Like, it's basically passed on like that. So her mom's situation, she did not want Tally to join up because she was like Saving Private Ryan. Like, all her sisters died, and she got special dispensation for like not being there, and
then joined like a hippie commune.
Well, she is from like a bunch of ladies. That's where Tally's from.
Matriarchal paradise is where Tally's from, which is why she's such a sweet and innocent darling.
Yeah.
Okay. So we haven't mentioned this part yet, which is the most unique aspect of the world building of the show, now that we have mentioned the work.
Yes.
Which is that, and it is not a subtle metaphor, but it is a good one. And that is that the witches all have powers that stem from their vocal cords and use their voices in these sort of very unique way to create their spells and things. And the sound design is so cool in this show. That's like the kind of most unique weird thing about it, and they'll make these sounds that like aren't sort of sounds that a human person can make. It's sort of like blended with other stuff, and they're doing like this like very odd tonal harmonizing, and it's very like spooky sometimes and just very, very cool. And that's how they do a lot of their fighting.
Yeah, I saw people sort of, debating whether or not this is fantasy or actually science fiction, because the quote-unquote magic is so grounded in kind of biological and natural forces that they're kind of using sound waves to affect nature and as a weapon. They sort of use it to like whip the air at people. That's the most common, I think, work that you see is just like, let's knock people over by going
and they have two sets of vocal cords,
right? Because witches are born with extra ones.
And I think they also have like different like eardrums, so they can hear things that like non-witch people can't hear. So it's very grounded. It's this very like, you kind of, it's not people waving magic wands,
or like the spells. Like, I think Elliot Lawrence was like, he didn't want you to like take a spell book and read like Latin. it was designed to be scientific with the sound waves and everything. And their weapons, you mentioned like whipping like air at people. It's because they don't carry guns; they carry these like whips.
Right, they physical whips. So it feels connect. Whips make a sound.
Yeah, they go
air. They So you sort of see how all of these things fit together. And it's one of those shows or like I said, it could be a book series or graphic novels or movies where just like every like thing you find out about it then leads to more questions, and then they get answered and you're like, oh, that makes sense. And then there's more questions and they get answered and you're like, oh, I see. So it's a really satisfying world to explore because you feel like it's that well thought out.
Yeah, it's like incredibly thought out. And if you are, I don't know if you guys who've seen it have been watching the like extras on Hulu for it's called After the Storm, where like they talk about, what happened in the episode for like 5 minutes. But I highly recommend that because there's a lot of information that like Elliot is filling you in on. It
made things very clear that are in the episode, but maybe
like one line
kind
or
of
something.
Don't process that sort of where you like really understand where a bunch of the world building came from. Like what will I don't know how much we're going to get into this stuff because I don't want to spoil it for everybody who's seen it, but like the different like factions of witches, like there's the army and then there's the spree, which we'll maybe talk about a little bit.
Yeah.
And then there's like the hunters, like the Camarilla, like where they're coming from and like how Alder is the way she's like all this stuff.
These are things we can say because these are not spoilers because they're not, I don't think some of this stuff is in the show. Like for instance, the Camarilla, which is an ancient witch hunter enemy for our witches, right?
Ancient. How Henry VIII started.
Henry VIII and Philip, I forget,
Philip
one or two. Philip II started that. Like that is not something.
They started the Camarilla to hunt witches.
I want to read that book. I hope that's the one that Elliot starts
right?
with.
The burning times.
Like that was
and the Spanish Inquisition, also the Camarilla.
Right.
Of course,
that's why
it would
the Camarilla.
Yeah. They're bad. They're not good. They're hunting the witches.
Yeah, they're very, very bad.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into like eventually our feelings about like how the show changed over time. But I was so into the spree as an antagonist, in part because for me they were much more morally complicated.
That's when I started getting a little bit confused because like they were. I mean, the show starts with them doing very bad terrorism.
Yeah, they're terrorists.
I mean,
it's like
they're like guerrilla
and then
warfare.
They kind of later, it's like, oh, are they fine now? Like it's weird
because we got these worst
like you got to team up for the
exactly
the other baddies.
I felt like the Camarilla when they kind of supplanted the spree as the like primary baddie. You're like, well, yeah, you guys are actually bad.
Yeah, and they're also like also like men mostly.
You're right, they're men who I feel like it's similar to the 7th season of Buffy, where eventually you're like, okay, in this very female focused show, we finally have to just have a misogynist as our villain.
Yeah. There's a lot of Buffy overlap.
Oh, yes.
Specifically for the last season.
Yes, there is.
Yeah. We'll mention it further.
But speaking of the spree, maybe we should mention one of the other major characters who you're introduced to in I believe this is a spoiler from the first episode, right?
Yeah. It's not a spoiler. It's in it.
Raelle has a love interest named Scylla, who's also at boot camp. And it is revealed at the end of the first episode that she is actually a member of the spree.
Whoa. This is the main canonical gay ship for everybody to enjoy.
Yeah.
And it's really juicy because it starts with this great conflict, Scylla's sort of it's that classic, like she's a secret agent. She's been sent there to get Raelle to join the spree, which you can kind of see how that would work because Raelle isn't 100% sure that the military is the right place for her because of all this baggage with her mom. And Scylla's working on her.
Yeah, it does start out really juicy.
With her lips.
To
join the spree.
They do have a really, really awesome moment that like is never replicated again to be as awesome, where they take this I don't know.
It's like a Listerine star.
Yeah, it's like a strip.
And they float.
So it's used.
Listerine strips to float.
Well, it's amazing because it's used from.
It's a star sticker.
It's taken from the actual military for when they do a battle drop. So they go on an airplane, they take this thing, and it helps them float down.
Yeah,
like,
so you don't need a parachute.
So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's pretty awesome.
But I think it's sort of like backwards. You're introduced to it, and you're like, what is this magical floaty drug? And then later you see them in drops, and you're like, oh.
Well, no, they got yelled at for being, this is like super dangerous.
Yeah, but I feel like that's a great example of the world building where you're introduced to this drug that makes you float, and you're like, why is this here? And then later you find out, and you're like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Of course, they would have access to this. Yeah.
But not to do cute, sexy floating in the woods and like.
And it's a really nice love scene.
It is.
Yeah.
They were nice in the beginning. I'm sorry, I'm being negative already. They're very cute. They're the canon
They're
ship.
fine.
It's totally great.
If you're into it, we're so happy for you.
Yes, and.
It's just
top. I'll also like.
Do they have like a ship name? Scylla and Rael?
Rilla?
Oh my God, it's something like that.
Oh God.
It's like
Sayel.
Rayla or something.
Rayla.
Okay. Sure.
It sounds a little like Raylo. That seems dangerous.
It's kind of similar.
That's what it is. Anyway, no, they're very sweet. They're very cute.
Fine.
And, like, there's other non-canon ships in there that are more fun.
Look, if you want to like burn with feelings and like really good acting, I should say.
Burn with feelings and really good acting. Yes.
Yeah. Just look a little bit further. Just head towards.
Head to the subtext.
towards
You
the
guys know what
subtext.
subtext is. You'll find it.
That's where
You'll
the
see
shit
it.
is right there.
You'll see it
because it's
in
called
the Xenolate.
It's called Talder.
Tall.
You like a tall, small,
dark and handsome.
You like a slight age gap.
You like a
so slightly age gap.
Slight.
A weird power dynamic.
Centuries and centuries of age gap. Yeah.
You're like an
I feel like I'm being
idealist
mean. I do think that the main canon ship is very nice, and I also want to point out mild spoiler that, like, again, the showrunner is queer, and you don't have anything to worry about if you get into this ship. Is all I'm going to say.
I have a quote from him. I wanted to read it earlier.
Okay,
sure, read it now.
From Elliot Lawrence. So it's kind of this is about like when he was doing interviews in the first season, and they would ask him like, why are you doing the show about witches? And this is his answer. He says that growing up, he was always obsessed with witches, and then he had this great idea. So here he is on that. One day, I just got this idea. What if one of the Salem witches cut a deal with the Massachusetts Bay militia, and the rest just flooded into my head? I'm a huge feminist, and I'm a queer person, so these kinds of stories about other kinds of power are very appealing to me, and power structures outside the status quo are appealing to me. It was a way for me to have fun and exercise a lot of the stuff that I have gone through as a young queer person growing up. And witches are the eternal other, so I felt very at home working on a project about witches.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I like this guy.
Yeah, and like the way that going into the mythology of one of the witches, aka Sarah Alder, who cut this deal with the militia.
Literally, was accused of witchcraft at Salem and was like, "Yes, that's true. Let's see what kind
Talk about this.
what can we do about this?"
Well, she has a traumatic backstory. Like
Yes.
she was almost hanged, and her sister
Because
was,
of the camera, yeah.
Well, okay, but the point is that one, as soon as she became, a part of this like new militia like leadership, she soon discovered that a lot of the enslaved women had a lot of powers, and therefore like some of her early lieutenants
including
and everything, a bellwether.
Yeah.
So like that's how that line starts, and it's just really cool.
Yeah, and it has to be said that is one of the very interesting pieces of world building in the show, is that we've said Abigail Bellwether is this kind of aristocrat. She's kind of the equivalent of, those like, fancy wasp, fancy New England wasp. Yeah. But yeah, she is the descendant of an enslaved woman. And yeah, the show, a
very respected, like incredibly respected, like family, because that's
because
just how it
they're
is.
super powerful. powerful and cut this deal with the U.S. military.
So other things that are really wild. We mentioned the session. The session is kind of like carved out like giant territory, like from up to down of the America, and like all the
right down the middle of,
right
like,
down
of the
like
Midwest.
Midwest. Some states are kind of like moved around.
Yeah, let's
some are missing.
That the opening credits are very, very
really
cool.
awesome.
The theme song is very cool. It reflects that vocalization stuff.
Sound design.
And it's a big map.
Yes.
That we're talking about, you will see in the opening credits, and it's very, very cool. Continue on.
Yeah,
with the map.
I mean, you can like pause it, like we did at one point. Pause it. And it was like, okay, let's see which states are like different. Like where did they go?
A little tricky.
It was so weird.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, this is why I think it
know
does
what's
count. It does count as alternate history because you have this one crucial change in the timeline, which is Alder making this deal at the Salem witch trials that just completely changes the makeup of the United States. States are like literally some states never come into existence.
So but the specific
certain
session,
groups of people have rights that probably would not have those same rights, including enslaved people and Native Americans.
Right. So the session specifically, as mentioned, is kind of like in the middle of the what we know as the United States, and that was a different deal made again via Alder. Because
she's wherever there's a deal to be made, there's an Alder.
Well, this is how awesome she fucking is, right? She was like gonna die, and the U.S. military was like, "Oh, we can't have this happen because she's so good at being leading our military and destroying our enemies. So what can we do?" So they got they struck a deal with like a bunch of the native people living in that area to help extend her life, and hence biddyship was born. We will get to that in a second.
And indigenous people often also had various versions of work,
and we meet them in season 3, and they are awesome.
Such good characters,
including our fave Millie.
Yeah.
Just wait for her.
Oh my god!
Okay,
Thelma Bear Killer.
She's the actual cool one. But look, in spirit of me, the one who's like not the main one is the one who's the best.
I do at some point. We need to do a corner of like the random characters that we love in the show.
Random character.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the fact that they like literally cut out and made independent a portion of their land,
and like right down the middle, which I have questions about, like how trade works.
I don't know.
I'm guessing that just the session is like heavily taxing anything coming through, so they're like really,
that's a good point.
How they've managed to maintain their sovereignty for 200 years, like, because they're literally dividing the country in half.
Yeah, well, Rael's from there, and they rent their like their house and their land and stuff, so hence they must go to the coffers of the session tribes and stuff. But so like I think that's just wild that giant change to geography of America wasn't about like, I don't know, politics or whatever. It was about like specifically keeping Alder alive.
Getting to be alive and young and high.
Forever.
Okay, so biddies, let's do this.
Oh, the biddies are some of the best.
Yeah.
So when you first meet Alder, she's always surrounded by this entourage of older women
in military uniforms
who look very sort of stern in the face and devoted to Alder.
They're just always around her. They never say anything. They're always kind of like clicking and like hissing.
Yeah.
So that's their thing.
You after a while, you begin to realize they're almost like vocalizing Alder's inner feelings or thoughts. Yeah.
Which is exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so they take on her years for her.
Mm-hmm.
So
I want her to be young and beautiful forever.
Yeah. It's an amazing...
I'd do it for Lucy Lawless. I'd be Lucy Lawless's Biddy. If she asked.
Actually, someone, and I am sorry I could not find this exact message. It was on our Facebook. They asked whether I would be willing to be a biddy for Alder. And I said I would answer this when we did our minisode.
Okay, so...
and my answer is yes, I would, but only if I got unbiddied, just like one of our characters.
Yeah, I guess we should not spoil that.
So it's an amazing piece of magic, right? However, it's an insane weakness because if you kill one biddy, Alder immediately gets old and weak. And so, I mean, I don't know. If I was a bad guy, I would take them out.
It's a weakness, but also, you know, people who don't have biddies, you kill them, they're dead. So...
Yeah, I mean, some pretty crazy shit happens to Alder that thankfully the biddies help heal her.
Yeah.
So,
and I do feel it's a great device in that you're both like, oh wow, Alder inspires this kind of devotion and this kind of sacrifice in people around her. And that's both amazing, but also you have doubts about it because you're like, she's literally sucking the life out of these other women.
Yeah, and, there's like an episode where you literally see sort of one.
I think that's how you realize.
Yeah, that's how they're explained.
Yeah. I feel like that's a great way of really understanding exactly kind of the shadow cast by Alder because she's so amazing, but you're also like, you think about the amount of sacrifice that's gone into making her this amazing figure and, you know, that she just continues to profit off of. And is she doing enough to justify
Yes, she's doing
sacrifice?
Shut up! She's amazing! Okay, other characters who we haven't talked about who are super awesome.
Yes, cool character corner. Let's go.
Oh my god. Well, you have to start with Anacostia Quartermain, who definitely wins for best name.
Yes. On and off screen, too.
On and off screen, right. The actress who plays Anacostia is named Demetria McKinney.
Yeah. I just love Demetria. I'm like,
I mean, I love Demetria and I love Demetria.
Yes.
Yeah. And she's in the first season, she is kind of in a way, a very archetypal character. She's the
drill sergeant.
The drill sergeant.
Yeah.
And you see her kind of teaching our main three and introducing them to kind of the way things work at military school. But then you also see her reporting to Alder and how much she herself worships Alder. And you find out that this is her family, that she's basically been raised a military brat.
She's like a war orphan.
And Demetria is a military brat. So it's a wonderful like resonance between character and actor. And as the plot like kind of goes places and you get to see kind of other sides of her that, you know, beyond her just being this drill sergeant, she herself kind of she begins to have doubts in Alder too. It kind of her arc kind of mirrors Tally's arc, which is also an arc of disillusionment. And that's some of my favorite stuff in the show. She's so cool. And then season 3 happened, and we'll eventually talk about that in our spoiler corner.
I have a fun story about her. I was listening to this podcast with the casting directors, and they are really cool people who've done a lot of like really fancy stuff. So they said that every character was down to 2 finalists for the casting, and for Anacostia, the first actor came in like full like military getup, you know, like ready to go and this and that. And then Demetria came in and wearing this like kind of like tube top and like cape situation, and they were saying that she was giving them like Diana Ross vibes, I
definitely see that.
And so, I mean, obviously that really worked, you know?
I do appreciate that with her, which, you know, she is a hard ass when you first meet her, but you immediately sense that there's just a lot more going on under the surface, and that there's this kind of full person. She is, even though she is very much a cog in the military machine, you immediately sense that, like, there's so much to her.
And if you like subtextual ships that aren't, you know, based on what you're seeing on screen, she hangs out a lot with Scylla.
Yeah,
and
the Scylla
that
stuff.
was cool.
I mean, I kind of admittedly, I want to write a fic in which, in which Anacostia kind of joins the spree, which they like kind of tease you with the possibility of that happening, and it never actually happens. I would have definitely gone there.
Other cool characters. Abigail's mom's pretty cool.
Yeah. I love Abigail's mom and her grandmother.
His mom and her grandmother.
Petra is the mom. I'm not sure about the grandmother's name, but
Granny Bellwether.
They're so much fun.
It's something like that. Like that. You're like, yeah, that's her name. Shoot.
Oh, it's Minerva.
Minerva. Yeah.
Minerva.
It's like,
yes.
you're like, a witchy name.
Yes. President Wade, who's like a awesome lady president.
The president is Cheryl Lee Ralph of illustrious acting career, Cheryl Lee Ralph, but also a recent amazing Emmy Award-winning speech that you should all go watch if you didn't see it.
Yes.
Is the president. So that's really kind of badass casting that they have on this show.
Cheryl Lee Ralph should be president. So good job, Motherland.
Also, there's a moment in season 3 where she's like really like frisky, and it was shocking.
Yeah, that was shocking. Also, she has this hilarious rivalry with Grandma Bellwether, which was super fun. I love that.
Oh, yeah, they go way back.
Yeah, your fave.
My fave is Adora, who I just love her. So she's like part of the necromancers, kind of like the doctor division.
They're the goths.
Vera. No, they're not.
The goths of witch military.
She does more than goth work. But she does like a lot of she's like the mad scientist,
she's definitely the mad scientist.
But super cool.
And she's kind of I feel like #1 Alder henchwoman.
Yes. Yeah. And also always there to heal Alder. And I just love that loyalty relation, But
she always has some great mad science to show off.
Exactly.
You're always worried about her getting killed by her own mad science.
Yes, exactly.
She somehow, this isn't a spoiler, but she somehow manages to survive all 3 seasons of the show, even though you're like, you should have been off by your mad science long ago.
It's so mad, the science. So we mentioned Adil. He's good.
Adil and Kalita is
Kalita's
sister. I was gonna say we have to shout out the kid. I think she's very good. She's young. She is a child actor, and she's very, very cute, and she holds her own very well in the show. And she's she's not spunky. She's just very.
She's supposed to be the most powerful witch in their tribe, and she's she's very
the Tarim.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she's very kind of wise beyond her years, kind of.
And she sells that, which is a really hard thing to sell. Yeah.
So another funny fact from casting: the casting directors were told for that character to cast someone who is Mongolian Leonardo DiCaprio.
Okay.
Easy.
So they were like, "What the fuck?"
He's very cute.
Yeah, he's very good, and they loved him, and
I feel he has a great because it's hard to be on the show. You're he's literally kind of the only major male character, and he's so his masculinity is so chill.
Yeah. And then from another podcast I listened to with the costume designer, it was funny for season 3, they gave him a lot of daddy clothes.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of conversations about father, having kids and stuff like that.
True.
So he wore a lot of cardigans.
That's so
and things like that were his daddy clothes.
Okay, this is. I don't know if this counts as spoiler corner.
I don't think so. It's
not.
Costuming is
Season 3 costumes are insane.
Yeah.
I was so confused by them.
Okay.
It's because in season 3, again, like we said, it kind of moves away from the war college environment, and you're in a real world
they're
environment.
Not in their uniforms
They're wearing
anymore.
kind of civilian clothes, and the choices are interesting.
Yeah. So
I will say they are interesting.
I might have some light to shed on some stuff, not all stuff, but so.
Anacastia's pink jacket.
Well, maybe, because some of it is they go to Walmart and they buy stuff or whatever, the characters
I can't imagine Anacostia going to Walmart.
Well, if they're on the run or
guess
whatever.
So.
but it is a specific pink jacket.
Why is it pink?
She just grabbed it from the Walmart real quick.
I think she loves pink and she never gets to wear it.
I have a feeling Demetria had
she
a
does,
hand in this.
because she wore pink once to the interviews.
Okay. that
she loves it. But anyway, the show, because it's an alternative history kind of situation, part of its thing is that it's vaguely 90s.
Huh.
And that's the part of the aesthetic. It's supposed to be the costume designer said that it's all sorts of decades, but specifically kind of 90s. She's you never see a cell phone. There's no, they don't use distressed denim or anything ever like that. And
I never thought about it, but the technology is
specific,
pretty minimal.
You really don't think about it at all. They're not like taking selfies, but you're like, it's fine.
They feel like they have more important things to do.
Exactly.
And they obviously have which versions of message sending and all that stuff.
Instant message right to your brain.
Right into the mirror.
So that was maybe to answer your clothing question.
That's definitely interesting. I mean, this is always, when you've been introduced to characters who literally you only see in uniform, when you finally see them in civilian clothes, there is kind of a disconnect. It's really hard till you're like, well, that's the actor, it's hard to accept that that's the character.
And they said that, that is one of their favorite, like the costume people's favorite thing is when the actors first arrive and they immediately go to costumes and they kind of almost create the character there as well. So like, for instance, Alder, she, Lynn Rane, when she, for her, like, her boots are like her favorite part of Alder, which is that she calls them her stilts. Like she like, her really makes her changes, exactly. And they said that they spent like so much money on her boots, but they were like, it's worth it. So stuff like that was very interesting to find out.
Is this maybe a good moment to transition into a more spoilery conversation?
Yeah. If you haven't seen the show, I hope we've sold you on it. It's diverse, it's gay, it's got lots of interesting moral dilemmas going on. It's got cool ladies everywhere. What else? It's got interesting sound design. It's got a really cool score. We missed something.
We missed some cool characters.
Who are they?
Keep them
like a really big one. Nikta.
She's one of my favorites.
Nikta in both the versions of her.
I love Nikta.
Nikta 1 and 2, who is like, you find out has a history with Alder, and immediately that's a favorite character of mine.
Right, sexy history. You're like, great, a rival witch to Alder.
So she's really great, and she's kind of played by like two different actors who are both really great.
Both amazing.
Arlen Stewart and Candice McClure of Battlestar Galactica fame. So some awesome BSG alums appear in various ways.
They shot in Vancouver, we should mention.
Yes, actually from the casting people, this was so interesting that like being able to do that like freed them up to do Commonwealth casting, that's what they did the 100 too, and they were like, that's why the 100's filled with Australians.
Oh, I see.
So
interesting.
It's I didn't know that.
I guess maybe something to do with the like unions.
I think so.
They can kind of cast within. That's
and then
cool.
certain things they couldn't afford. I guess this might be a good time to mention somebody who was almost cast as Alder.
Yes.
Hannah Waddingham.
Oh, really?
Oh my God. Oh, that's a very different show.
So and she was interested in it, and they couldn't afford her because she's from the UK, and while Lynn Renee is from Europe, she was working out of LA at the time, so it
was easier to bring her in from LA than from
the UK. Exactly, and apparently they almost lost her in season 2, but the network shelled out to keep
Alder. Yes.
Well, I think everything worked out for the best there, but like I love that, and I'm very excited to see Hannah Waddingham be a witch in Hocus Pocus too. So,
so I guess she's always wanted to be a witch.
And you didn't get there, but she's in 12 Monkeys.
She's in 12 Monkeys?
Yeah. And just kind of like
interesting
in there too.
Well, she probably wouldn't have done Ted Lasso had she done this.
Right. So everything worked out for her.
It all worked out for her.
Yeah. But that's cool.
She'll always be shame none.
Always, forever.
Okay,
but Nikta is great.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, my facts.
No, honestly, maybe the best character.
Yeah, and really, I just want to say the spoilers.
Well, a transition into spoiler corner.
I already recapped all the reasons you should watch the show, and I think we're totally very good at convincing. So I think you can trust our taste.
You definitely check it out.
You should totally watch it. It's over. It's good. You won't be like super mad, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't
think so. A little bit, but not a lot.
Yeah, we could start with that, I guess, in
experience.
spoiler corner.
Yeah,
We've kind of hinted.
All right. So.
Okay, so spoilers. What's the most spoiler thing you can think of that you want to share?
Okay.
Well, I mostly just want to talk about how the show ended.
Okay.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can just go right into that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't want to, like, start on a negative, but season 3 was not as great as seasons 1 and 2.
No.
And it seems like what happened there is, again, we've talked about how expansive the world building is. I think probably in Elliot Lawrence's mind, this was maybe a 5-season show, if I had to guess.
I think he said even more.
Even more.
I saw a thing that was like he wanted to do like the Witch Navy and like the Witch Air Force.
No,
the Witch Air Force.
There's just it's one of those shows.
Oh God, Witch Navy? Can you imagine a fucking admiral rival to General Alder?
That's so cool. You gotta write that big. Yeah.
Fuck.
And season 2 left things in such a way where there was just so much rich, like so many places you could go with like that triangle that is Alder, Nicta, Tally. Like I just feel like there was so much stuff that I wanted, and like they like literally physically could not do it in one season. So I mean, you feel that in season 3 that they've kind of like had to make some compromises in terms of like what stories they're telling, and just like I feel like it's not as complex as the previous seasons had been.
Yeah,
they had a bunch of challenges. Firstly, they knew going in it was the last season, and so had to speed run to the end, basically, which is not easy.
No.
At all. And number 2, COVID's still going on.
Yep.
So that's still a shooting factor, and it's a big deal.
Yeah.
The other big thing is that Raelle, the actress Taylor Hickson, got into a pretty bad accident. And couldn't literally shoot for a while, and they had to work around that, which is huge because I'm sure they were going to do something else. They had sort of a in from the end of season 2 where it sort of worked out for them.
Yeah.
Like that they had established this issue already where she was like poisoned from the mushrooms.
Oh, yeah, the mushrooms.
And then there's a mycelial network.
There's a mycelium, yep.
I'm so done with the mushroom network.
Mother mycelium.
But I get it, like nature.
Yeah, it's a big theme in the show.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm just LOLing at Star Trek. So they had her kind of be stuck in the mycelium for half the season, which is a bummer, and obviously sucks for the actress who was genuinely hurt. And so, but that's like half your season is not what it was supposed to be, and you have to write around that. So already that's huge challenge
for sure. And Scylla kind of had to step up to replace.
Which I agree with Mr. Lawrence in that I think that wouldn't have been as big of a part of it as if Taylor had been in the show more for the first 5 episodes. You saw Scylla with the main main woman more than she ever had been, and kind of was integrated into the team in a way that she might not have been, because her and Raelle were sort of more siloed, and she was not a villain, but you know what I mean. And then paired up with Anacostia. Oh, sorry, I'm flinging my headphones around. And so you do get to see more of her with Tally and Abigail.
I think that was a nice side benefit, seeing how Scylla works as a team member, and just kind of that sense, that she had been elevated. It went from being sort of the big 3 to being the big 4. I feel like Scylla did kind of earn her place as a lead in the final season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
she's sweet.
Alder, who I stand and watch the show for, unfortunately, was ousted in season 2 from being general.
But that stuff was so juicy.
It was so juicy. However, I did not need her to be a weird mycelial person in season 3.
And I do think they lost, you know, that ambivalence that had been there with Alder, where you're like, is she good? You know, you really had this sense of like her as this kind of anti-hero almost, and like season 3 kind of just dropped that. It was just like, Alder's good. Like, you literally have like Kalita show up, who had previously been very anti-Alder, being like, oh yeah, she sang her song for me and now she's good. You know, just accept this character's good now. And you're kind of like, whoa, that's kind of a major leap that now we have to make, where we just accept her for having good intentions.
However, there is a scene where she eats a big pile of nachos.
Oh, shit.
Super great.
That was...
so many points.
So wonderful.
And her whole style, you know, now she's out of uniform. It was so much fun.
She has cool hair.
Cool
it's all
jackets.
Loose. But I mean, speaking to your point, like, she did have like a sort of morally, you know, questionable moment where she kind of killed a dude who like traced back to a guy who like wronged her family back in the day.
Yes, that was a cool part.
That was a good part.
It was like kind of getting revenge. Yeah. Which made me go like, oh man, where was the whole season? Like, instead of being a mushroom person, why can't she spend the whole season getting revenge on like all these like
Maria people?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like solo revenge missions from Alder.
No, I mean, I have a feeling if we'd had 5 seasons or 7 seasons or however many seasons, you probably could have had these arcs for Alder. You could kind of see, you know, I would love to really see like the season where Alder is a completely free agent, like kind of not the spree, but sort of spree-like, and falling back into Nycta's orbit, and all, you know, just lots of cool stuff.
In the future, I would have loved scenes of flashbacks of actually Alder doing these like military campaigns that you sort of get a glimpse of in the credits, and all this amazing like art that hangs of her
100 years ago.
History.
I hope that Lynn Renee took that art.
The Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War I.
Yeah, all the things.
World War II.
Yeah, so like all these things that, you know.
And then also conflicts that they've invented for the show, like the Liberian conflict where you meet Nycta.
The Second Mexican War.
You're right. Yeah.
So yeah, just like anything that is sort of mentioned, whether it's visual or whatnot. Like, I just wanted to see all that stuff. Like, I would have loved to meet all the original witches too, you know, like actual Jem Bellwether and like, you know, the Craven and
sounds expensive.
Whatever other, I forget now.
If this show were really
if this show was happening,
had a nice big budget.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I guess like for me, like my interest is in that history and specifically like Alder's like part of that. And, you know, the show spent a lot of time on like people kissing and like not doing that.
This also reminds me of a random piece of world building that I loved, which was the matchmaker.
Oh yeah.
Who was there to like find Abigail a correct partner.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah,
partners.
Good. Right, 3 different correct partners to have the good witch babies. Yeah. Like, I love that stuff. I feel like there was some fun kind of like Jane Austen vibes to Abigail's plots, where, you know, a lot of it was sort of like, even though she's like this very powerful, like militaristic person, it's still everybody's hyper focused on, you know, who's she gonna marry.
Yeah, right, because you gotta continue the line. But like all that stuff was just so interesting, like the way that they handle that, and also like the fact that like it's good for these witches to, you know, have sex because it like charges them up magically.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
I forget the bell train.
Sorry, I just took a sip of water, but I was so excited when you said that because I just remembered that happened.
So that's like another fun piece of world building. For the witches. I guess these weren't, that's not specifically spoilery, but
just cool.
what other spoilery thing should we talk about?
Well, let's talk, I mean, I think we should like go through like top moments for the people who have seen it, who are still listening.
Yeah,
all 2 of you, hello.
Or people who don't care.
Or people who don't care, just let it keep going and just gonna watch it anyway.
Yeah, they're doing the dishes.
Like,
they can't
we don't
turn
need
it
to
off.
Run through like every, you know,
plot
of every season. But I think just like
good bits.
Just want to talk about your highlights reel. Like, I think my favorite sequence. I don't know. I think like a high point of the show. Like I love season 2. I think season 2 is my favorite season. There's a lot of like good episodes in it.
Yeah.
But like the season 1 finale is like maybe tip top with which it ends on like a great cliffhanger of Abigail like going to sacrifice herself to save Rael, and then meanwhile you have the kind of real big Alder moment of Tally becoming a biddy.
Yeah, choosing
for Alder
to
and then putting that actress in the old biddy makeup. It was really great.
Yeah.
Just like kind of big bang end to the season, like really, really fun. And that made you really excited for more.
Right. And then season 2 being that, well, I'm just going off of that, the biddy ship, where they undo her so that she's hot and young again, but she still maintains that kind of like telepathic and emotional connection to Alder, which is why I would also want to be undone. And so I would still have that connection.
Want the psychic link.
And so that's like so shippy. It's like insane.
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
Yeah, that's some good stuff.
I mean, I feel like season 2 really sent that ship sailing.
Yeah, because then you also introduce Nicta, who's an literal ex of Alder, and is like scorned and is now, in charge of like the spree, or like created the spree. And so that's how shippy is that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, with Tally kind of like stuck between. And I love that like she and Nicta then kind of begin kind of, the anti-Alder relationship. Right. Tally swings from like Alder's orbit into Nicta's, and like they have a really great like charged relationship. I think maybe my favorite moments from the show are sort of end of season 2 when they've gone, you kind of finally get to meet Nicta in the flesh, and they've gone in and kidnapped her, and then suddenly Alder is losing power, and Tally kind of in between. Is she gonna protect Nicta from Alder? Is she gonna try to protect Alder, who's like literally about to be like demoted? It's such a juicy conflict, and I love that it actually ends with Alder getting fired. But
I mean, like, she stood up and like invoked some kind of old ass
proxy,
like whatever, and like she fought Alder. Like that's
Alder.
How shippy is that?
Yeah, I mean, it was so. I mean, all of that. Honestly,
she gave her a little cut.
It's so sexy. Like it was such juicy, and just such an interesting love triangle between these 3 powerful women.
And also, there's such good acting between like those people are really good at acting.
Yeah,
unlike some people, but.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, that's good. I mean, I'm gonna go off of more Alder stuff, which is that in season 2 there was an insane dramatic moment where Nicta sent a terrorist attack against Alder by like burning her vocal cords.
With like molten metal.
Yeah, it was some kind of crazy thing, and it was like so dramatic, and like to see her kind of flopping around on the floor, and all the biddies are going nuts too, and it was like. And poor Isadora's like floating around, being like, "Oh my God, who do I save? How do I save her?"
I still can't believe that Isadora made it all the way to the final episode
she got
of the show.
She got so dead at first.
Yeah, I was like,
so dead.
What a Vera fave! Like, Vera's faves always. But no, it was all right.
And then I was, for then Anacostia to die, like 1 minute later.
Yeah, I think
Let's discuss.
I'm not even gonna like devil's advocate it. I feel like I know where that guy was coming from. The usually smart showrunner. The actress had a pilot that she was shooting, right?
Called The Winchesters.
Yeah. Couldn't be there for all of it. And I understand. I'm usually like the first to defend the like random stupid thing that happens that kills a character like in the heat of a battle. You're like, fuck. Like, you're like, they're there for realism and whatnot. But don't make it funny, and don't make a car go flip and flip and flip and crush your cool character.
Okay, but the thing is, their powers are like wind force, right? Yeah. She wind forced everyone else. Why couldn't she wind force the car back?
Right, just for the tragedy of it.
Whatever. She needs to go film her pilot.
But yeah, I mean, I have issues with Anastastia's whole arc in season 3. She really didn't get to do anything,
and everybody was paired up.
I didn't
and it
like.
was like weird.
Yeah,
that guy.
She was
weird
paired up with.
It was like.
And she felt very, in the previous season, she'd been very involved in the spree plot, and obviously in the plot with the main 3 in season 1. So it felt like she was really like siloed in her own plot, and it was a really not very interesting plot for the most part, and that was kind of heartbreaking.
I mean, it was cool when she took the skin
fave.
off of that one spree person,
right? Yeah. Some of the work she learns in the course of that stuff was pretty cool. But
yeah, like it was a rough ending.
Season 3 is kind of rough all around.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody gets like a great arc in it. Like everything is just a little bit shaky.
But you do meet the session, the tribe,
and that's very cool.
And that stuff is actually
really
genuinely awesome. Yeah. I loved the more world building.
Yeah,
like seeing the session and having those. It's so cool to have all of these native characters, and they're all important, and some of them are hilarious.
Millie. Oh, and learning that the sheriff played by Hawk from Twin Peaks, and how they have like biddies as well,
right,
like the male biddies,
which makes sense because as you were saying, like it was that's how the session was created.
So this cool.
This is indigenous magic.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I think we should do one more mention, bring it back to how we said that Buffy was a big influence in this. I don't mind an homage or whatever, but basically they introduce, like in season 3, there's sort of this overarching thing that they need to find the first song, and it's sort of the original, piece.
Right.
I think it literally created human language.
Mother, yeah, like it was like these women from the Ice Age.
Yeah, basically
did this song, and they went and they created language.
Yeah. And so yes, the mother gave these 6 women the song in 6 pieces, and then they all went off and then created all the lines of witches. And now they need this song again to
save the world
or whatever. One of the pieces ends up being in Abigail all along, although they find all these other pieces and blah. And Raelle sets off her witch bomb thing that she does, and the song goes every which way, everywhere, all over the world.
Every which way.
Oh, shit.
And it is literally the ending of Buffy, where they do basically make
You're a slayer. You're a slayer.
And it's like everyone.
You're a slayer.
And I liked it. So there was an interview with the showrunner who was talking about, I think, again, when it was a book series, he always envisioned the ending of it as being this sound and language apocalypse, but in a good way. And he also wanted this season to end very hopeful, because the past few years have been garbage. Right. And he was like, I don't want to do anything blah. So he wanted to go on a big hopeful note. So the ending is literally they send out this thing that makes basically anyone a witch, and that's going to change the world in ways they don't understand. And basically sort of the concept is as the years and years and years and thousands of years go by, the creation of how the world is then traces back to our 3 mains, who are now referred to as goddesses, because it's been thousands of years or whatever in the future. And that's why Alder's you're going to be called goddesses, so live up to it. So because they are the beginning of this, it's true, but a creation myth of how everyone is a witch sense. Now. And it's a little just wet. She's hanging out a fake helicopter, doing it, and then she disappears weird. Into the clouds, and it's what just happened? So I was a little in theory on paper it's okay, but then it really was just Buffy. It was. But
it was worse because it was way more rushed.
Yeah.
So I was what?
And Buffy always, that was so much a part of the characters. She was alone. It had to be her. So
I mean, I didn't like it in Buffy either. I don't want everybody. I don't want everybody to be a slayer.
I like seeing finally Buffy supported.
It has issues, especially if you didn't want to be one.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah.
So.
But who does?
I mean. Anyway.
I'm sure somebody does.
So that was a little disappointing.
Yeah.
There were a lot of fun parts in season 3, though. It was still fun to watch.
Yeah.
For sure.
Again, it's such a great world that, everything you find out about it is entertaining. And I feel like, from a sort of show writing perspective, season 3 is interesting to see because you kind of can tell, that it probably was something that Elliot Lawrence was planning to do down the line, introducing this first song and kind of putting that as the kind of final movement of the show. And you could feel that he just sort of moved that a lot earlier in his timeline and hadn't really set it up. But you can kind of see like the wheels turning behind like this machine that he'd built. And I do appreciate it from that perspective where you're like, okay, like I get what you tried to do. I see the fix. Like it almost works. It works enough to like it doesn't break the show.
No.
Yeah, so it's just for me personally, like literally like everything about what I liked about the show was like ruined at that point. Like I loved the military and Alder, and it was not about that at all anymore, and therefore it was like, okay. But that's just me.
And also I feel like we should talk about, like, I kept waiting for Talder to be canonized.
Yeah, Talder was literally
seemed like they were doing it. And he has said, as a queer showrunner, he does not want to make a queer biddies show. I think
he did, though.
I think that those actors, like, because the story they were telling was, like, just very interesting. And they had such an insane chemistry that I'm glad that they kept pairing them up and giving them this stuff. And it did almost seem like they were going to go there. And I think, too, the two actresses were into it, which becomes a problem because then it's not actually, like, queer baiting because we know what queer baiting is and the show is not doing it.
But what about that behind-the-scenes kiss?
That was just the actors posting a photo. It was, like, literally not. We know that this is not queer baiting and it was probably, like, never going to happen, but they just have this, like, insane, weird chemistry in these plots
and they
together.
were into it. Like, clearly they, as people, were into the relationship. Yeah. And I think would have been happy if the writers had followed suit.
Well,
I could see why they didn't do it, but also it would have been, like, neat if they were just like, fuck it, we're canceled already.
Again,
like,
I think with more seasons, again, that triangle with Nikta, it just sort of felt like it was being set up and that they just didn't have the time to do it, so they kind of sidestepped it.
She had more development than bringing Tally's boyfriend back. Like,
right.
That's the part that made it seem like queer baiting, is that we hadn't seen that guy for like so long.
It wasn't being used to like
but
get people
why did she need
to
be paired up at the end?
Part of the
you know what I mean? Like the fact that she was,
they wanted to give her a date at the wedding.
Yeah.
And that's so weird.
Felt. Yeah.
I like, it's just like the show had moved on from that guy specifically.
Yeah, it was so weird. I didn't even know who he was.
For instance, I thought she was gonna be like paired up with the character M because like they had that scene. They were, and that person was like in the show at that time, and like
that would have been cool. I would have loved to see Tally and
they just brought this dude back, and that was kind of like, that's what felt kind of like queer baiting.
Right, because you're suddenly like, she needs a man.
Right, and she like, I don't know, not everybody needed to be paired up at the end.
I agree with you there. That did not seem right.
She didn't even need to have anybody. Like, it was just very strange.
And again, there are so few male characters on the show that whenever you do sort of bring one in, it's noticeable. You are just sort of like, what?
Yeah. And, like, Adil is, like, so well integrated into the show, like, since season 1.
Right.
So, like, that's why
he
became a character, and, like, therefore, it wasn't a problem.
Adil, too, oh, my God, I feel like there just would have been such a great plot about this character from this, like, pacifist society who ends up, like, super violent. Like, that is, like, such an arc, and they, like, just did not have time.
So much fic needs to be written.
They did not have time to deal with it at all. Oh, my God,
maybe he'll write his books.
Yeah, I just want him to, because once you mentioned the fucking other armed forces, I was like, holy shit, this world just expanded so much.
That's so exciting. Yeah.
Okay, so I have like a random fact, but at this point, I was going to say it when it was relevant, which when we were talking about the women who like created the language, the Ice Age.
First Slayers.
The first Slayers from the Ice Age, yes. The costume designer said that for that, she wanted leather that was like unworked. And it was really hard to find. Right? It was really hard to find, like, pure leather. And so, whatever, they found it. And it's, like, white leather. But fake fur, because apparently you can have real leather, but not real fur.
That's weird.
The second thing was that I wanted to mention an Alder scene that very much screamed Xena to us when we saw it. Do you remember when Alder comes back from whatever the fuck war back in the one of the one of the few amazing flashbacks with Alder, right? So she comes back and finds like her whole like unit like dead.
Oh yeah.
And she like kind of has this intense, like she falls on her knees and literally like howls out this like noise, this song that creates the like mycelial network.
Yes.
And like to me that was like so like Xena moment. It was very,
kind of
very good.
Maternal instinctsy.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Yeah.
And the third thing is okay, so what kind of music did Gwen Stefani and No Doubt make in the 90s?
Is this a trick question?
Yeah, I feel like it's a trick question. I'm like scared to say anything.
Ska.
I mean, pop.
Oh, I get it.
Oh, but yeah, like it wasn't entirely. But I know what you're saying.
Joke. That's good.
But LOL, Vera. LOL.
You just ruined it so hard. So yeah, so we have, I think, come to the end of this episode.
Also the episode titles are so fun.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God,
another
they're so
fun
weird.
thing.
It has really eccentric episode titles.
What are your favorites?
I forget their exact names, but it's like Tiffany's pencil and then
Brianna's favorite
pencil.
No, it's Petra's favorite pen.
Petra's favorite pen is the sequel.
Brianna's pencil was the original.
Brianna's pencil.
And then there was an episode called A Tiffany.
Oh, a Tiffany. Okay.
Which was like
I'm getting them all confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just have these like very whimsical names.
But I don't even have a dress. Was
yes, like I really again I feel like that goes with just the whole sense that the show is just so like painstakingly kind of created, and even down to the titles there's thought in them.
Really cool. Like so some of the like the pencil pen ones like really pay off.
Yeah,
because you're like spending the whole time being like, why is this called this?
You're like, that is so specific. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then eventually you see it and you're like, oh.
Holy shit, so good. Okay, so I think we're at the end now for sure. So we love the show. You should go watch it, even though you just listened to possibly some complaints.
Yes,
it's still so super worth it.
What would a TV show be without some complaints?
Precisely.
Yes. One more thing that I really wanted to tell you guys. If you haven't checked out sparkpurple.com, you should, because not only will you find tickets to Xena Retreat there, but also to Super Queer Summer Camp, an amazing multi-fandom experience. It's just like Xena Retreat, but not just Xena anymore.
Like with Motherland.
And I was going to say that Motherland Fort Salem is going to be a featured fandom. So please.
All over the place.
Exactly. So come check it out.
Yeah.
Well, you can go to superqueersummercamp.com or sparkpurple.com.
Yeah.
And then also follow us on the stuff and the things.
Ooh, okay. So we did want to shout out, like, again, thank you to all our patrons for sticking with us through a little bit of time where we haven't put anything on there. We're gonna be doing some cool stuff upcoming. So I just wanted to tease that a little bit. So number one, we have like a wrap up to Lucy Lawless IMDb Experience, which I am calling loose ends in my head of everything that we kind of didn't really talk about, that maybe kind of random, and stuff that was just like brand new. I don't really want to watch a Minions movie, but I'll watch a little bit for her.
We'll do it for her. We won't be her biddy, but we'll watch a Minions.
So looking forward to that, and then we are planning a new patron exclusive podcast about another show. It's another show that's on that you should watch. What is it?
What could it be?
Should we leave it at that?
Yeah.
Whoa, all right.
Should we like give it away with like a clue?
Yeah, give a clue.
Is there like a clue that doesn't give it away?
Don't cry.
That sounds like it's going to be about Evita.
Yeah.
Well, it's not Evita.
How about a fruit from Georgia?
So on that note, we will have a bunch of more stuff upcoming on there. And yes, Yes. There's gonna get stuff soon. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
A little bit of an overhaul going on. So be on the lookout for that. You can listen to us on all the places where you can listen to podcasts, like Apple, where you can like and give us stars and leave reviews. We always love to read. And you can listen to us now on Spotify. You know the drill. Anywhere you listen, we are there. We are on Patreon at patreon.com/Xena Warrior Podcast. And you can find us on all the different social medias, on Twitter at Xena Warrior Pod, and Facebook and Instagram, same deal, Xena Warrior Podcast.
The power.
The passion.
The podcast.